Good afternoon, and welcome to our Glendale City Council workshop. This meeting is for council members to review and discuss important issues, projects, and future council meeting agenda items. It's a work study session only and allows the council to hear input from city staff. No action will be taken at this workshop, and there will not be an opportunity for public comment. This meeting is streaming live on Glendale's Facebook and YouTube pages and the city's cable television station, Glendale Channel 11. Thank you for joining us.
All right, perfect timing, just turned 12:30. Good afternoon, welcome to Glendale City Council Workshop session, April 14, 2026. This meeting is called to order. We'll conduct attendance roll call. Councilmember Baldenegro, are you present?
Here.
Councilmember Conchus, are you present? Councilmember Guzman.
Here.
Councilmember Tomachov. Councilmember Turner. Vice Mayor.
Present.
And I'm present. Everybody's accounted for. Mr. Bauer, would you introduce item 1, please?
U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, Community Planning and Development Grant Investment Recommendations.
Good morning.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. Today, myself, Matt Hess, Deputy Director of Community Services, and Trelise DeLeo of the Human Services Grant Administrator will present our consolidated plan goals for FY 26 through 29. We'll talk you through our accomplishments, our staff analysis, and investment recommendations by the Community Development Advisory Commission, otherwise known as CDAC. I'll start with the program's accomplishments and key insights. So since the inception of the tenant-based rental assistant, better known as TBRA, since 2021, we've served 129 households, which equates to 334 individuals assisted. Of that 129 households, 90 of those households and 252 individuals have been housed. 55%, we had a 55% increase in their income during their time in the program, and 76% of them exited the program to a permanent housing situation. With those households, on average monthly, their rental subsidy was $1,315. Most of our clients stay in the program upwards of 22 months, with the max of 24 months. Our emergency home repair. We served 96 households in FY 24-25. $9,050 was the average for our emergency housing assistance. The top needs that we've seen and serviced are plumbing and HVAC, $20,600 on average for roof and exterior assistance. Some of that could also be desert landscape, exterior paint, and lighting support. For our LIHTC projects, which stands for Low Income Housing Tax Credit, we have 7 multifamily projects since the inception in 2022. These are apartment developments. Of those, we have 1,382 affordable units. $3.1 million used of federal funding was invested, $2.2 million direct city investment, and $523 million was the total investment. 5 projects are currently in service, and then we have 2 projects that are being finished now. They're called Juniper Square and 67 Flats, both at Maryland and 67th Avenue. I'd like to hand this over to Matt Hess for an analysis.
Thank you, Kimberly. So the purpose of today's discussion is really twofold. It's to allocate new money that we will be receiving from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development through the Community Planning and Development Office. That includes Community Development Block Grant, Home Investment Partnerships Program, and Emergency Solutions Grant. The other purpose is to reallocate prior year money through what we call a plan amendment. So in order for us to have the discussion, the conversation about how to allocate or reallocate those funds, just a reminder about the framework. In order for us to be able to allocate these funds every year, we have to tie it to our 5-year needs assessment, which is called a consolidated plan. That is something that HUD requires of us. The last and current existing consolidated plan runs from the fiscal year 25 through 29 period. And there are specific goals that the council has approved in that plan that have informed the specific activities that we'll go over that we recommend, or I should say the CDAC has recommended for funding for next year. So that includes promoting affordable housing, providing access to services for people experiencing homelessness, other types of public services for vulnerable populations such as seniors, youth at risk, the disabled, and others, and then also advancing fair housing initiatives. So some of the criteria that the CDAC used when making these recommendations, in addition to current council priorities, that we do continue to have high rental costs. It has abated somewhat in the last couple of years since the peak of the pandemic, but there is still a high need for rental subsidies and access to affordable units in the community. We have achieved significant strides with our homelessness response. There is still continued need, and so you'll see threaded within these activity allocations recommendations to continue supporting that. And then also an interest in sustaining current programs such as Kimberly mentioned, the tenant-based rental assistance and homeowner repair programs that have achieved a lot of success, and the CDAC felt would want to continue supporting. So just to give you an overview of the funding that we are talking about today, so you'll see up in yellow, that is new funding, that is FY 26-27 funding. We did receive our notification. Those numbers are a little bit different. Unfortunately, we never know how much money specifically we're going to get until HUD notifies us. And so the numbers are a little bit off. There's about a 2.5% decrease with CDBG, about a 3.5% decrease with home, and a slight increase of 1% for the Emergency Solutions Grant. So for the CDBG programs, as we'll see, we've prorated those activities based on that reduction, which is our typical practice every single year. You see below in green, there's about $1.4 million of prior year money that the CDAC is recommending to reallocate. And I will turn the presentation over to Trelise to discuss specific activity allocation recommendations.
Mayor, I have a question here before we move on. Prior year funds, this is money that hasn't been allocated yet?
Mayor, Councilmember Guzman, the money has been allocated to activities, but either because of coming in under budget or other priority needs that we've identified, we have to reallocate to a different activity, and that's completed through a plan amendment. So we essentially have to amend a prior year plan where that money was already allocated.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Mayor,
Go ahead.
I have just two clarifying questions on definitions. So in terms of the LIHTC projects, 1,382 affordable units. Can you tell us what affordable means in terms of these definitions and these numbers?
Yes, Mayor, Councilmember Conchas, affordable means the rent is no more than 30% of a tenant's gross income.
Thank
And
you.
that's the standard that is required for those projects.
Thank you. Mayor, one last follow-up question is in terms of the homelessness response effective but need remains, can you talk to us a little bit about that statement? How is it effective, and what is an example of a need that remains?
Mayor, Councilmember Concha. So if you've noticed to your second part, during the pandemic, the incidences of homelessness spiked, and that was indicated through the annual homeless point in time count, for example. That has increasingly come down. I think 22 was our peak year. It has come down. We do not have a 26 number, unfortunately, from the Maricopa Association of Governments yet. So the need still remains, particularly around shelter, particularly around street outreach, rapid rehousing activities. So the full universe of, I guess, the toolbox related, really there is need in each one of those buckets. It's just that we have seen that need has come down quite a bit just in the last 3 or 4 years.
Thank you, Matt. So as you will see here, the CDAC met at their monthly meeting, and based on the Consolidated Action Plan goals, have made a recommendation for the funding allocation. The first goal is to increase access to affordable housing. They are recommending $3.5 million of the available funds be allocated to meet that goal. As you'll see here, $419,000 is recommended for public housing improvements. That is for our public housing capital improvement plans. That will be for things like energy efficiencies, HVAC upgrades, improvements to the actual units that we own. In addition, we are transitioning our tenant-based rental assistance program internally to our community action program this year and are recommending the ongoing support of that program in the sum of $1.2 million to provide rental assistance to those clients. In addition, $231,000 will support case management of the overall staffing needs of the division. And then $1.6 million to continue our ongoing residential rehabilitation program.
Mayor?
Okay.
Thank you, Mayor. What types of rehabilitations are included in the residential rehabilitation? I know sometime in the past there was a request to provide solar. So what types of things are we allowing under this residential rehabilitation?
Thank you, Mayor and Councilwoman Tomachoff. That is going to include the things that Kimberly had spoke about earlier in our emergency home repair program. So helping assistance with HVAC replacements and repairs. It could be anything that's health and safety needs of our residents in the city. So it could be electrical improvements, plumbing improvements, leaks in their home. In addition, it also covers the roof program that we have and the exterior program that we have as well.
Okay, so it doesn't cover any solar installations?
It does not.
Okay, thank you.
Could I get later, someone email me where all the public housing facilities are that we own?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. So goal number 2 is to increase access to our homeless services. The recommended action by the CDAC is to allocate $191,172 to our continuation of our rapid rehousing and eviction prevention program. This has been supported and monitored through our community action program for the last several years, and it is recommended that we continue that in the next fiscal year.
Okay, Mayor, I have a question.
Go ahead.
Can you explain to me kind of how that works? What kind of rapid rehousing do you do, and how do you help them with eviction prevention?
Yes. Thank you, Mayor and Councilwoman. The clients will submit applications if eviction prevention is somebody who is currently housed but is on the brink of being evicted. So they typically have a 5-day eviction at this moment, and our team will work with them to determine eligibility and to bring them up on their rent so that they will avoid eviction. Rapid rehousing is for anybody who is currently determined homeless, and we will assist them in finding stable housing immediately.
Is the stable housing in the public housing?
It is
areas?
not in our public housing, no. It is typically on the fair market.
Okay. All right, thank you.
So moving on to goal number 3 is our public services for vulnerable populations. We fund nonprofit agencies that do provide services to support our low-income residents. Typically, they will support vulnerable populations that are categorized into seniors, disabled, youth, victims of domestic violence, or other categories of vulnerable populations. The CDAC did meet, and we did hold a grant application cycle where we received 16 applications from nonprofits in the community. Their request summed a total of $736,000, and the discussion was based on the 15% allocation that we're allowed of the CDBG funding that we receive, and the estimated amount at the time was $356,000. Ultimately, CDAC made a recommendation to fund 11 of those applications.
Mayor, I have a question here. When I was going through the presentation, I noticed that there's scoring that's done. Can you explain how that scoring is done and how that works to determine the funds?
Thank you, Mayor and Councilwoman Guzman. Yes, the CDAC meets ahead of the grant application cycle and has a matrix that they put together, and the matrix that is in the grant application binders that the council has received are the criteria in which they have determined how to score those applications. And then when the applications come in, our staff will review each application and the information and the supporting documentation that is provided, and will score the applicants according to the questions and the criteria. That information is then reviewed by the CDAC at a subsequent meeting and determined, and that is part of what is used to determine how they make the ultimate funding recommendation.
So if they get a higher score, it's better. If they get a lower score, it's, oh,
That is correct. The higher the score, the better, as they have met the criteria in which we determine to be most effective and support the needs of the community.
okay. All right, thank you.
So as you'll see here, in order of the highest, as you'll see here in order, the YWCA has been recommended to be awarded $78,000. We've got Boys and Girls Club at $11,000, Chrysalis Shelter, who's providing domestic violence support, at $15,000. Duet is $23,000. A New Leaf is at $94,000. Benavia is at a little more than $15,000. One Step Beyond, serving our disabled population, is recommended to be awarded at $15,000. Big Brother Big Sister is at $19,000. Treasure House is at $23,000. Sojourner Center is at $37,900, and then the Arizona Burn Center is at $19,600. That is the sum of the $356,000 that we had estimated we would have available. As Mr. Hess alluded to, we have received our allocation, and depending on the council's recommendation, we will prorate it based on the 2% difference that we have received, and we are confirmed for receiving next fiscal year. But at this time, those are the 11 applicants that have been recommended for funding, and that concludes my presentation at the moment.
Mayor, I have another question.
Yeah, just a quick question on the applications. Now, are these the only applications you received, or are these just the ones that you had approved funding for?
Thank you, Mayor and Vice Mayor. These are the 11 that are recommended. In your board packet were the full 16 applicants that had applied. There are 5 on there that were not recommended by the CDAC for funding this year.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Mayor. On the fiscal year 2026-27 CDBG Public Service Grant recommended allocations page, okay? It was one of the attachments to this. I see here where the YMCA Metropolitan Phoenix, the application score was 160, and they were, the recommendation was 78,638. But on a New Leaf, their score was 135, and they were awarded more money.
Thank you, Mayor and Councilwoman Guzman. It is also based on what the request amount was. So the CDAC taken into consideration what that organization requested and then made a recommendation based on that, because sometimes there's a need to have that higher funding. And if I recall,
Yeah, they did.
yes.
New Leaf
A
requested
New Leaf had
120.
requested slightly higher,
Yeah,
and so that's
okay.
why, and then based on the ultimate proration and the discussion, that's why a New Leaf was funded higher than YWCA.
Okay, so it's not just the score.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
You need a consensus on approval of these recommended. Is that what you're looking for?
Mayor and council, yes. As a part of the process, the steps that we've taken are listed here. On March 4th, we completed the public hearing number 1. March 19th, CDAC made recommendations for public service grants. March 26th, another public hearing, number 2. The next steps are on May 12th, City Council will have the final allocation action. May 15th, the final date to submit to HUD. And today, yes, we are asking for consensus to proceed with CDAC's recommended CPD investments as presented.
Have we got a consensus? Yes, we do.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor and Council.
Thank you.
Thank you. Tara.
Discussion of amending City Code Chapter 26.5 Outdoor Light Controls, Section 26.5-1 through 26.5-10.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. Tony Abbo, Deputy Director for Transportation. With me today is the Transportation Director, Parab Arabala. I'm here before you to present the proposed changes to the current lighting ordinance. City of Glendale is not a dark sky city, and the proposed changes to the current ordinance will not change that. Okay, the goal of the ordinance is to guide and manage outdoor lighting. It does so by controlling the light trespass, and that's any light spillage that's going from the light fixtures onto adjacent property or neighborhoods. Reduce glare, make sure that it's dark sky friendly, and we do that by reducing the light pollution, focus the light where it needs to be focused on, which is the roadway and or the features that it's intended for. Make sure that it's cost effective and energy efficient, and to do that, we are promoting LED technology and make sure that it's nighttime safety by properly illuminating roadway features and or city-owned facilities. And then it also dictates some good practices related to lighting, and that's to make sure that lighting is focused downward and limit light pollution and glare. Next. Okay, the proposed changes, I'm going to talk about that. This chapter has been in existence since December 9 of 1986. That is 38 years that it has remained unchanged. And many of us know that there is new technology out there, and including LED lighting and smart technology. We also want to make sure we address environmental impact. The LED lights will reduce less carbon emission and have less. And we also want to focus on having less light pollution that disrupts the ecosystem. And add clarity by adding definitions that include newer technology and adding language to understand the purpose and intent of lighting applications such as proper shielding, adaptive or activated lighting, and color temperature of the lights. Next. What the new ordinance does not do, and as I stated earlier, we want to make sure that we keep the city as okay, let me start over. We want to make sure that Glendale is not a dark sky city by placing mandates or requirements that would otherwise indicate so. So what we're trying to do up here is to make sure that we limit the uplighting, so we're not flooding the sky, especially at nighttime, with any unneeded lighting. Next, what we would like to do is get your feedback today, as this is our first presentation before you, and we will not move forward unless we get consensus. And if we do get consensus, then what we'll do is we'll bring the lighting ordinance to a future meeting, a city council meeting. So with that, I open it to any questions, comments, concerns that you may have.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to make sure, so I'm a little confused because it says promotes dark sky fixtures without mandating Glendale to become a dark sky city. But by putting this in an ordinance, does everything but just not calling us a dark sky city? I just want to make sure I understand what you mean by that.
No, to become a dark sky city, there's a lot more restrictions. This ordinance just promotes fixtures that will not be flooding the night sky with any lighting or any flood lighting that we do. So if we're lighting a building, for example, we try to limit it to the top of the building. So this just helps us with not shining light up into the air that is not needed.
Mayor, could I continue? Yeah. So I guess I'm a little confused that this is coming from transportation. So does this apply citywide, or just to transportation?
No, it will apply to citywide. So whether
Citywide,
this is
okay.
tunnels or parks, and we have run this by our partners at Field Operations and Parks also, so,
But this
yes.
is just a municipal code ordinance, just that applies everywhere. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. How would this apply to existing lighting?
Mayor, Councilor Tomachoff, that's a good question. So what we have in there is language that will, as if the fixtures are there and are working, will wait for the end of their life, and once they reach the end of their life, then they will be replaced with LED. But we're not going to go out there and do a mass replacement of all the lights.
Okay, so essentially, existing signage or whatever type of lighting will be grandfathered in until it needs to be replaced?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Baldonegro.
Thank you, Mayor. I know this has come up several times with our businesses downtown where we were having problems with the old style lights that were not working, and then right before Glitters we were able to get it working, and then now since Glitters is gone and it just recently they're off again. I mean that seems to be like an ongoing issue. Old wiring, we understood there was a problem with the library connection and everything like that. They've been very, very patient, and I'm thankful for that. One of the things that they always bring up is that they want to keep and maintain those nice gas lamp style posts, but they would like a updated fixture with a LED, a bright white LED, not a soft yellow amber. They want a good clean light. They want the look of the fixture to stay the same, but they want a good clean light. With today's technology, are we able to upgrade those fixtures without necessarily having to replace the whole fixture? Are we able to do that easily and when time comes, obviously?
Mayor, Councilor Baldonegro, yes, that is a possibility. There are retrofit light fixtures that we can put in there. We just need consensus on the color temperature. Some folks would like it more yellowish. Some folks would like it a little bit brighter. And some folks wanted it with the glass. Some people didn't care for the glass. So what we have been talking with our partners at Economic Development and the downtown group is we just need to get consensus on what sort of lighting fixtures, and how much work do we want to put in there. And once we know that, then we can move forward with that.
Mayor, one more question. Thank you. Is there a way that we can reach out to every business owner that's on Glendale Avenue, so we're not just kind of getting my word for it? We're actually reaching out to them specifically so that they know their options, they know like feedback from them, because they're going to be seeing it, whether they like, if it's like they want a bright white one, but then all of a sudden, no, the consensus is to go a softer yellow, whatever. Can we make sure that we're getting the feedback or the input from the business owners that have those specific lights very close to or in front of their businesses, please? Is that possible?
Yeah, I'm going to interrupt you. We're getting off track from what this is. We really need to stick to this. This is something that we could talk at another issue, but I don't think they're the same.
Okay.
No worries. Right. Okay.
I think you've answered the questions, that this is only applying to city property. Is that correct?
Well, the ordinance applies to development, city properties, and roadways. So if a developer comes today and has a proposed development, we would treat them the same as if we were treating our own facilities. So, they are not going to be able to come and flood the skies with lighting. So it really applies. This is the code that will apply to development as well as parks and all our facilities, all our buildings, and our roadways.
Okay, so a private entity retail business is not affected by this?
If they're already
that currently exists.
Existing, they can continue. But if they're going to be doing any remodeling or doing upgrades, then they will need to, when they submit their plans through development services, then that's when then it will become into effect. So we won't go into businesses and require them to change all their light bulbs to LEDs and so forth.
your zero uplight, how does that apply to flag display?
I'm sorry.
For the United States flag, how would that apply?
The flags, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I'm not sure that it's in here, but the flags have to be lit, so I will have to take a little deeper dive into that. But
Yeah, there
they
needs
will
to be an
continue.
exception for that, because you're going to have upward
Yes.
light on that flag, which is required if you fly it at night.
No,
So-
Vice Mayor, Mayor and Vice Mayor, I totally agree with you on that. That is something that needs to be put in here. So thank you very much.
Okay, Mr. Turner, do you want to speak? Okay, I thought you were trying to get my attention. Guzman, no?
I do have another question, Mayor. So is this something that we're already starting to require from developers? I can think of one instance in my district, a project and basically an addition to an existing development that's requiring some of this. Are we starting to require this now before this actually rolls out?
We, Mayor, Councilmember Tomachov, that has been the practice. We've been doing this for the last 3-4 years that I've been, associated with developments. It's just the code has never been upgraded.
Okay, that's what I thought. So we're already requiring this on new development,
Correct.
even though we don't have an ordinance to require it.
Correct.
All right, that's what I thought. Thank you.
No one else? I have some problems with this. If this was city-owned property, I'd be fine. But if we're gonna have to hire LED police to go to people's property to check their bulbs, I have a problem with that. I really do. I think the city's reaching out too far too often in people's private lives. Mr. Melner talked about the flag. I happen to have my flagpole lit. My lights shine up. Although there is opportunities for people with new flagpoles where the lights shine down, mine's not set up that way, and I certainly don't want to go to the expense of setting it up that way. I have no problem with this if it's a city only, but I do have a problem if it goes to private properties. I do. So depending on how you word it, if it's city only, I'll be a support. If it's going to be open to everybody, then I'm going to be opposed. Welcome for anybody, any other comments? Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Abo, thank you for the presentation. I appreciate that. My understanding from how you described this is that this ordinance would be proactive, not retroactive, for existing lighting. So it would not be retroactive for existing lighting unless, say, a shopping center was going through an overhaul, a facelift or something like that, and where they would be replacing lighting anyway, they would need to conform to the new code. But go ahead.
No, continue.
I'm good so far?
Okay.
Okay. But for new shopping centers or new factories or any new developments like that, new subdivisions, that they would install now and continue going forward with the down-facing lights, not the up-shining lights. My sense is that allows us not to get any worse about light pollution, and maybe over time get a little bit better about it. Is that accurate?
Mayor, Councilmember Turner, that is correct. So the whole goal is, as we move forward, is to adopt the new lighting fixtures and make sure that we limit light pollution. But it's not the intent of this to go into people's homes and mandate that they replace every light bulb in their home and bring it up to LED technology.
Mayor, if I can continue, I may have missed it, but this is for exterior lighting, correct? Not for interior lighting?
Correct. This is mainly focused on exterior lighting.
So how would this be enforced at the time of plans application, when the plan review occurs? Is that when this would be enforced going forward?
Mayor, Councilmember Turner, that is correct.
I don't know how to ask this without, do you see that we might in the future have a need for a light police or some, specialists in this area? Or is it just something that we're going to be picking up on a routine basis through the normal course of business?
Mayor, Councilmember Turner, it's not my expectation that we're going to have a light police going out there because we're not a dark sky city. My expectation is as new development comes in that we will mandate these requirements, but it's not our intent to go, from neighborhood to neighborhood or, from business to business that are existing today and make requirements on that.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Ebo. Thank you, Mayor.
Mr. Ebo, aren't we already mandating these requirements on new development? We're already requiring this.
That is correct. On
So,
any development.
Even though this is not in our municipal code at all, we're already mandating it.
We are mandated it and we haven't got challenged yet. So
But we could be, because it's not in our code.
that is correct.
Okay. And I can see where this would be problematic. So if, say, some kind of business wants to refresh their exterior, but they don't want, is this going to be like an unfunded mandate? Like or only if you're actually changing out your sign? Like, say they come in and they want to do some other things to their, or if they're doing tenant improvements or something like that in a plaza, and they're coming to the city for a permit to do things, but they're not changing their sign, are we going to require them then to change their sign?
Mayor, Council Member Tomachoff, I believe, if I am not mistaken, and it's a good question that you asked that, and I don't believe that we see, what I'm saying, our reviewers don't see the minor tenant improvements, so unless there is something major where the entire store is being repurposed or redeveloped, or they're coming in with new signs, we won't be commenting on anything that's existing.
Okay, but what I'm asking is,
Yeah.
would it be only if they're changing the signs we would require it? Or there would be circumstances where we require it if they're doing a big something but not changing the sign? So, am I too far away? I'm just trying to get an understanding of when are we going to require it and when are we not going to require it?
I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think what she's asking you, if they pull a permit, then it would be required.
Correct.
Even if the permit's not to change their sign?
I'm just trying to figure out, so if the permit is not to change the sign, okay, then there is.
But to do a big renovation inside or to change,
Yeah.
even if they, I mean, it could be, I mean, not every, it could be the same brand, but it could be a lot of other big changes, so.
Yeah, and my, Mayor, Councilor Tomachoff, my understanding is that if the sign is there and they're not touching it, then that would get grandfathered in.
Are we sure about that? I mean, with the ordinance? Because I'm a little confused, because we're already requiring it even though we don't have an ordinance. So, I mean, I guess in order to know whether I'd be supportive, I'd have to see a draft of what the ordinance would actually say. So, I mean, I'm just not sure I would be supportive unless I actually read the ordinance and know what it says. Thank you, Mayor.
Yeah, Mr. Abel, my whole career, I've always tried to not try to find a solution for something that isn't a problem, and it seemed like government's pretty good about doing that a lot of times. Can you give me 10 addresses of people that are in violation right now?
I could not do that.
Can you give me 5?
I could not do that.
Can you give me 1?
I could not do that.
Yeah, I don't know why we're doing this. I do know that most businesses are always trying desperately to save any expenses they can. Anybody that thinks about it at all has already switched to LEDs, and they've done it years ago. Because it is a huge cost savings. Your house, your building, your office, your store runs cooler. You don't have that heat. I just don't know what we're fixing here. You know, if it's working and we haven't been challenged and there's nobody complaining, I don't know why we're doing this. I just don't.
Mayor and council, a large part of the presentation today is we do already have a outdoor lighting ordinance, and the technology in the 38 years has changed so much. So what the ordinance says versus what is being used out there and what staff is reviewing in plans that come in for developments do not match. So the large part of our presentation and the ordinance update that we are trying to do is to just bring it up to what is already being done out there.
Well, it sounds like you're expanding it to me, is what it sounds like. Again, personally, I don't know, but I can't speak for anybody else, and I won't try. If it's city property, city streetlights, I have no problem with doing that. But if we get into personal property, private property, then I'm going to have a problem with that, because I think it's opening up a can that we don't need to open up.
Mayor and council, the ordinance already applies to private property, outdoor lights on private property as well. So we are not expanding the ordinance. The ordinance already addresses outdoor lighting on private property. We are just updating the technology from old incandescent lights or whatever the old technology was to the LED technology that currently is.
But you're going to
being
make
used.
LEDs mandatory instead of incandescent or halogen.
That is the prevailing technology these days, so.
Yeah, I have a problem with that. I do know that most people that own businesses and private have switched to LEDs because they're just cheaper. Cheaper to operate, they last longer, overall total expense. That's why the city, 10 years ago, why we switched to LED lights on our street lights. It saved us a lot of money. So, I don't know. Any other conversation? Anybody? Eleanor?
Thank you. Having read through the ordinance, it seems to to me, it seems to just do what was stated. It updates our lighting program to a LED visual versus the old technology. I believe there may be some things in there that are becoming a little bit more restrictive. But overall, I think the purpose of the ordinance is to do that, is to update the technology. But I believe there may be some language, and I think the mayor has some concerns that are valid, that we don't want to make it more difficult to accomplish this, but just use new technology, which I don't think anybody would have a problem with, as long as we're not forcing it. And I don't think we're forcing existing. We're just asking the new, which in most cases, you know, when I've updated lighting in my home, I've always gone to LED because it's about a fifth the cost of the power to generate it and better light. And so I don't think there's an argument there. So for me personally, the updates to the ordinance, I think, are needed. We just need to make sure that the restriction, that there's not language in there, and I think several have been commented here today, that it's not becoming a burden or more restrictive than we really want it to be.
Mayor, and I have a question about the ordinance that's in our packet. Is the underline meaning that it's additional text that wasn't already there?
Mayor, Councilor Conscious, yes, the underline is all the new text that was added.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Guzman, anything? You doing? Okay. What else have you got? Is that it?
No.
Go ahead.
Mayor, I mean, are you going to add in there a provision of the grandfather clause or something like that, or that it literally is not going to apply? I'm trying to find that, but I don't see it in here.
Mayor, Councilor, what we'll do is we'll take in all your comments and we'll look at it. I know there was a comment that was made about the flag, and that is a very, very good comment. We'll look at that. We'll make these changes, and then we'll bring this back again and see if we were able to address all the comments and concerns that were brought up today.
Okay, so you're good with us tabling this at the moment?
Correct.
Go ahead.
Mayor and staff, I wanted to discuss. I know that the current ordinance, which this is a proposed update, says that a violation of this chapter shall be a civil infraction and a fine of $300 a day shall be imposed for each day the violation exists after expiration of the abatement period provided for in this section. And then it has that $300 fine a day. I believe that $300 fine a day for a violation of this ordinance is too steep of a fine and of a penalty. And so if we are to table this, then I would also want the council to decide whether that is the penalty that we would like to have for the violation. Thank you.
Okay. Consensus on tabling? Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bulk trash performance audit.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. We actually have two presentations here. The first one is bulk trash performance audits, and then we're going to move right into the bulk trash council item of special interest. The two are kind of tied together. We felt if we did the performance audit first and cleaned up some of the background, the second presentation is a lot easier. And Mr. Carr is really going to get into that. But really what we're trying to do is we'll ask for council direction at the end of the second presentation, just to make things a lot cleaner. So, Mayor and Council, we're here today just to talk about bulk trash. That's one of the services that we do provide as part of the solid waste services. This is a service provided to single-family homes generally, so this is not a commercial business. This does not apply to multifamily generally, and it's to collect those items that do not fit in your residential refuse container. This is, from solid waste perspective, our most inefficient service. And so when we were discussing with Mike Kingery a potential audit, we looked at the bulk trash performance audit. How can we get better? How can we better serve our residents? And so the main audit objective was to assess opportunities for reducing operational costs while maintaining our customer satisfaction. So we really looked at that. We didn't want to break what we do well. And so our customers, our residents, think highly of our bulk trash services. This is a service that they like us performing. And so we didn't want to get away from that. So we really wanted to maintain the high level of satisfaction with this service, but look at how can we increase it. So Mr. Carr is going to get here shortly some of the recommendations that the audit came back with. I do want to point out, though, it wasn't just recommendations of things that we do wrong. They pointed out 3 things that we do really well. And so I just want to cover those briefly. They found the division to be very adaptable. They're always committed, and we have several staff sitting here, so I'm glad they're here to hear this, that they're always committed to improving the efficiency of the bulk trash program. So if they find a way to make it better, they're going to do that. The next one was customer service. The division demonstrates a strong commitment to customer service and consistently prioritize the customer needs. And so we want to make sure that we continue to do that, and that's what we're going to talk to you about today. And then finally, the education effort, that our staff really is into the educate the residents, don't penalize them, and we want to make sure we continue with that. So those are kind of the commendations we got coming out of the audit. The other thing I want to point out is that neither of these presentations have been through the Citizens Utility Advisory Commission, mainly because this one was a performance audit, and the audit results have presented to Mayor and Council, and so we wanted to come back to Council with that. The second one, also with the Council Manager's Special Interest. So any direction we get from Council today would go back through that commission then before anything might be implemented, such that we do get the residents' input on that. So lot said kind of as an introduction, but with that I'd like to turn it over to Michael Carr, our Deputy Director over Solid Waste Services, to talk more about the performance audit.
All right, thank you, Ms. Wojtenko. So as Michelle mentioned, this presentation is based on our performance audit. So Moss Adams was engaged to conduct an independent performance audit of the city's bulk trash program. The audit ran from October of 2024 through March of 2025. So what you'll see today is the audit findings closely align with the challenges we hear from residents and the staff experience in daily operations. Moss Adams' task was to evaluate operational efficiency, program rules, and enforcement practices. The findings are recommendations are summarized in the following slides. So Moss Adams identified two primary findings of concern. So I'm glad Michelle brought up some of the positive things because this is going to focus on some of the areas we need to improve. The first inefficiency was in scheduling and routing, which are driven by highly variable participation and tonnage from day to day. The second was the program rules and current practices, which are not aligned with best practices around the valley and are contributing to program challenges. So some of these challenges, with this, it allows materials to remain at the curb for an extended period of time, contributing to neighborhood impacts like scavenging and debris. Importantly, the audit found that many of these issues are interconnected, meaning that addressing one area in isolation does not fully resolve the problem. So as a result, the solutions are less about small adjustments and more about how the overall system is structured. So we'll talk through what that means and the range of options that are available. So the first recommendation from Moss Adams was to rebalance our route sections. We have, obviously, as you are aware, we have 4 collection sections. The audit found imbalances based on the number of homes in each section, varying participation rates, and distance traveled by crews to the yard and the landfill. Staff took action right away on this recommendation and has already completed a complete rebalance of our sections. We factored in new home growth areas as well as formally defined the collection area boundaries. Next, the audit made some recommendations. They identified that the highly variable tonnage from week to week creates unpredictable staffing needs and inefficient collection practices. Crews may be over or under deployed depending on the participation levels, which are difficult to forecast. The audit recommends moving to an appointment-based model. The proposed benefits include increased operational efficiency while maintaining the existing rate model, improved customer experience through scheduling certainty, reduced neighborhood blight by limiting set-out duration, and maintaining the current monthly service frequency and section structure. Staff's position is to proceed with evaluating appointment-based collection, and we'll speak to this more in the council item of special interest presentation that follows. So another recommendation from the audit was to review our set-out days. So currently, Glendale allows residents to set out material 4 days prior to their collection day. Because the collection window spans up to a week, piles can end up sitting at the curb for 7 or more days. The comparison table on the slide shows that Glendale's current 4-day rule is among the more lenient in the valley. Cities like Avondale, Peoria, and Chandler require set out on the same day or the day prior to collection. The audit's main concern was wind-blown litter, scavenging, and the overall impact on the neighborhood's appearance during the extended set-out windows. Staff recommends amending the set-out period to 2 days prior to collection. This keeps Glendale more permissive than most valley peers while meaningfully reducing the time frame that material sits out at the curb. In addition, the audit identified our bulk trash piles. Currently, Glendale, our code allows for piles the length of the property by 6 feet tall, meaning that there is no defined length or width limit. This is notable because nearly every comparable city has a defined maximum. Glendale's current standard is the most lenient in the benchmark table. Audit concerns include unpredictable tonnage, making route planning difficult, extended collection times during driving up crew hours, and safety concerns for residents and pedestrians when oversized piles block the right-of-way. Staff recommends a limit of 10 feet long by 6 feet wide by 6 feet tall. This is consistent with what Gilbert uses and represents a reasonable middle ground in the peer comparison. And just for reference, that's roughly 13.3 cubic yards of material. In addition, the audit found that there's some current enforcement fees are too low to be effective deterrents, and that there's no written internal process for how we assess the fees, meaning enforcement is inconsistent. So staff recommends two actions. Number one would be increasing the fee to a level that creates meaningful compliance. As a note, we do have many instances where a resident will place material out either the week before their service or the week after their service, scheduled service week. And then rather than bringing that back into their property, they will opt to pay the $99 fee to have us come out, pick it up, and haul it away, which for us creates operational issues, having to break away from route and redirect our staff. For some people, it's incentivizing them to just pay us the lower fee. So, sorry, excuse me. We'll also be developing a standard operating procedure so that the enforcement is applied consistently. The expected benefits are increased compliance and reduced neighborhood blight. This recommendation is not about penalizing residents. It's about having a consistent, documented process that holds up when challenged by the few residents who do not comply. To summarize staff's position and the audit, we do recommend, proceeding with reviewing scheduled appointment-based collections. We are recommending amending Chapter 18 to change the set out to 2 days prior, adding a pile size limit, increasing the fee for code violations. We recognize that some of these recommendations may require further discussion, and we'll address them directly in the next presentation and ask for council direction at that time. But before we move on to the next presentation, are there any questions regarding the audit findings?
The audit findings, we're going to discuss this at the next one, right?
Mayor, that's correct. We
Okay.
can, we just want, if there's any specific questions on, regarding the audit, we can take them at this time, but regarding the recommendations, we'd like that later.
Well, are you going to talk, I want to understand, it's at least my understanding that any violations are not code violations. They don't go to code. So is that going to be addressed in the next presentation? I can wait if it is.
Yeah, so Mayor and Council, Councilmember Salmashoff, Chapter 18 of the City Code is enforced by solid waste. It's not enforced by our code compliance division or department. So the code for Chapter 18 is enforced by solid waste. So any compliance is within, even though it's a city code, it's just enforced by a different department within the city.
Is that how other cities do it?
It's, Mayor and Council, it's not consistent, but it's not uncommon for other cities to divide up the code and enforce by specialties.
So, okay, hi there.
So code enforcement would continue doing what they're doing, enforcing this also.
They don't.
They don't.
Mayor, members of the council, if I may, Michelle. Code enforcement doesn't enforce Chapter 18, but there are other chapters of the code that code enforcement is responsible for that covers, for example, items stored in public view. So if a member of our community places items out too early on the street, sidewalk, or on their own property, they could be cited for storing items in public view because they're not out for bulk trash until the time in which they're permitted to put it out, if that makes sense. So code does enforce Chapter 24, 25, Chapter 29.1, which under Chapter 25 at least covers a lot of the nuisances that we see in our neighborhoods.
So that's where the confusion comes in. So let's say somebody reports, and I mean, I don't know about anybody else, I get a lot of complaints about stuff put out too early. That's a complaint that I get a lot. And so somebody does a Glendale 1 and says my neighbor put their stuff out a week too early and it's just sitting out here. Then where does it go? Because it could be enforced by code or by solid waste.
So Mayor, Councilmember Talmachoff, so those do come to the Solid Waste Department. The Glendale 1 generally is where they come through, or through customer service, they'll create a work order. Those go to our inspection crew, and our bulk trash inspectors will go out. They get their morning reports or work orders every morning. They'll go out on the route, and then they'll tag and educate customers that have their piles out too early. Through that is where we start the enforcement process, where we allow them 3 days to remove the pile from the street. Once that time is up, we then go and pick up the pile and we charge them the $99 fee. And that was where we were referencing the fee being too low, where residents don't have any incentive to take the pile back And/or do they have any incentive to follow the schedule on the next time when they're being picked up? Because they would rather pay $99 and just have the whole thing taken care of and
It's
not
pretty
have to worry
cheap
about it.
service. That's why they're doing
Unfortunately.
it.
Unfortunately, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor, thank you very much for this presentation, and also thank you to all the bulk trash and all of the solid waste employees that are out there every single day. They do a very good job. So in terms of the audit, I serve on the audit committee, and I voted no against this audit, particularly because of the recommendation for scheduled appointment collections. And one thing that I want to emphasize for the public and for the council, when it comes to this recommendation, it says right here that on page 6 of the audit, that though staff reported the city is adequately staffed with bulk trash crews and there are strategies in place to manage fluctuating workloads, for example, using temporary staff in peak times, providing training during lower volume times of the year, due to inherent unpredictable nature of bulk trash collection, it can be difficult to plan how many staff are needed each week. And so the point I want to make is that the staff recommendation of proceeding with the scheduled appointment collection contradicts the staff reporting here in the audit that shows that staff had reported that they are adequately staffed and that they have strategies in place to mitigate it. So I wanted to make that point because I'm firmly against a scheduled appointment collection process, and I think all of the other measures are really good to help out with the capacity and the size, but I just wanted to make sure that I showed that contradiction because I'm adamantly against the scheduled appointment collection process. Thank you.
Mayor, if I could, before we get too far into the scheduled appointment collection, we want to discuss this further in the next presentation.
Never mind that.
And so maybe if we want to hold a lot of the discussion on the scheduled appointments until that presentation,
I
that
do,
may
but
answer
I
some
want to make
questions.
sure, does that work for you? Or do you want to speak now? Go ahead.
Because my question is not specifically about, maybe it is. So we are all aware that our Code of Compliance Division has code officers that are constantly out in the field following up on complaints or Glendale One information, as well as doing their proactive work. Does the Solid Waste Division have employees as similar?
Yeah, Mayor, Councilmember Turner. So yes, we do have our inspectors. So we have bulk trash inspectors and our residential inspectors that they go out and inspect our residential containers for recycling and our garbage. They also second as bulk trash inspection. So we do work closely with the code inspectors as well, so we have a good relationship with them. If we have issues, we'll communicate with them. If they have issues in their areas where they are, they'll communicate with us. So between the two groups, they work really well together to try to help enforce code throughout the city.
Thank you. Yep. I'm glad to hear that you work together. I hope it's enough to truly be effective. I would like to see that our code compliance inspectors, if they saw bulk trash that was put out, would be able to cite it or do whatever based on the bulk trash rules, not by kind of twisting something different that, for the objects in view. But I'm about to be schooled on this, I can tell, so thank you.
Mayor, Councilmember Turner, I don't know if schooling is the right word, but okay. Yes, when our inspectors are out doing their proactive work, if they see items prematurely put out for bulk trash, we do serve notice, notify solid waste of the violations, and make a determination on who's going to work the case, kind of depending on the totality of the circumstance. So are there other violations on the property that code has to work anyway? We'll maintain that bulk trash complaint then.
Thank you, Mr. St. John's. Thank you, Mayor. I'm done.
Mayor.
On. Okay.
One final question, and I know the answer to this, but just for the public, the audit report that we're discussing today, I couldn't see it in our packet. So where can someone find that audit report?
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. All of our audit reports are publicly posted. I believe you can get there from the city clerk site and go to public documents, and they will be there. If you need a copy, however, I'd be happy to send it to you.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. Transitioning now to the council item of special interest. As I mentioned, this flows directly from the audit. The two presentations are intentionally connected. The audit gave us an external analysis, and this item gives council the opportunity to weigh the options and provide direction. So again, this effort was initiated following Councilmember Tommelchoff's direction to evaluate bulk trash set-out timing and its impact on neighborhoods. The preliminary concerns included materials being out too long, increased scavenging, and overall neighborhood appearance. As you'll see, these concerns closely align with the audit findings we just reviewed. So following the March 25th, 2025 council consensus, staff was directed to develop options for how long residents can have bulk trash at the curb before collection. That deliverable is what you'll see here today. We've structured this presentation to show you how the program currently operates, what the data tells us, and what the findings suggest, and then ask for direction. For context, here's how the program currently runs. We serve approximately 59,000 homes across 4 geographic sections, providing monthly collection service Monday through Thursday. Each collection day deploys for each collection day, excuse me. For each collection day, we deploy 5 to 6 crews working 10-hour shifts. Average participation runs about 25% of eligible households on any given week, and we collect an average of 90 tons per day. So the map on this slide shows the 4 sections. The section size and layout affect how long crews are in the field and how far they travel, which is relevant to some of the options we'll discuss. Even within this structured system, variability remains a significant challenge. So bulk trash operations are influenced by several key variables, including participation rates, pile size, material type, and seasonal trends. This variability is the root cause of many of the inefficiencies identified in the audit. Bulk trash is operationally complex because so many things vary. Participation is not consistent. Some months in some areas we see significantly more set out than others. Sorry, excuse me. When participation goes up, pile sizes and density vary too, and the mix of material changes based on the season. Seasonal cycles can drive predictable spikes, spring cleanouts, monsoon cleanups, holiday gatherings. These all affect staffing needs significantly. Thank you. Enforcements also offer variability challenges as we are unable to predict how many enforcements we will have from week to week. To help residents with our unpredictability, we have developed a resident-facing app, which is, are you going to that now? Sorry. It's not, oh, there it goes. So we have developed this resident-facing app, the Glendale Bulk Trash app. This allows residents to check on their collection service area to see where we are and where we have been. You can also use the search icon up in the right corner to search your address, and it will actually show you if we have been to your home or not during that collection week. So that's one of the tools we're using to help residents see where we are and where we've been. I'm sorry. Sorry, I'm just getting over a cold here. So the concerns that drove this council item of special interest were piles sitting at the curb too long, scavenging activity, and the resulting neighborhood blight. 3 potential approaches were identified for staff to evaluate: breaking the city into smaller collection areas, requiring set out only on the day of collection, and minimizing the total number of days the piles are out.
Staff examined each of these, and I'll share with you our findings now. To evaluate the options, staff used the following operational data.
He's got a backup plan. That's me, right? So to look at the options, well, Mike gets his voice back. We looked at a bunch of different operational data: route miles, hours, participation rate. That's the number of residents that participate in, like, put out for bulk trash. The location of the pickup, the weight by section per week, and city code violations. This data really gave us a clear picture of where the program's working well and where inefficiencies exist. The map that we've got shown there shows Route 1 collection area. So this is up in Section 1. Each color represents a crew. So red follows that crew for that week, and so each different color is a different crew. So density in each of those areas determines how much of that area the crew can cover and how fast they're able to move from north to south. One thing we did determine with this, though, was the way we were collecting our data was a little bit wrong for solving the problem. We were collecting it by crew versus by day, and so we really had to look at our data, what we collected, and that's why it took us about a year to get back in front of you with that.
Thank you, Councilmember Tomachoff, for the throat lozenge. Sorry again, I was just getting over a cold, and I made it through the first one. So, as Michelle mentioned, we do use that data to give us a glimpse into our schedule, and so that we have an understanding of where we are throughout the week. One thing that I would have mentioned is that we do know that we run Monday through Thursday, so we try to complete 25% each day. So we do track our metrics each day to see where we are throughout the week, and that gives us an idea of where we're going to be, whether we need to staff with more crews on Wednesday or Thursday, or if we're going to be working into Friday or Saturday to complete the routes. So this chart illustrates one of the core challenges that we face. Participation varies significantly, not just by month, but also by section. As you can see on the chart, in October, Section 1 hit 36% participation, while the same month, other sections were closer to 25%. If you follow the yellow line for Section 1 across the chart, you can see a dramatic decrease in November and December, and then swinging from 36% to 19% participation, and then a significant increase by 10% the following month. The data also shows that November had a dip across all sections. So this kind of seasonal pattern highlights the fundamental unpredictability that we face when we're trying to schedule and staff for collections. The variability that this chart shows is important because it directly correlates with how unpredictable the workload is. Under a set calendar-based system, crews don't know what volume they're facing each week. We feel that under an appointment-based model, they would know how many stops are scheduled and how many crews they would need to send out. So based on operational data, here's what we found. Participation, pile size, and material volume are highly variable month to month and section to section. This is a structural challenge, not necessarily a seasonal one. Regarding smaller collection areas, the data shows that this would not actually reduce set-out time for residents. It could instead create operational efficiencies by fragmenting routes and reducing staff's flexibility to respond to heavy volume days. Ultimately, we feel smaller routes would lead to an impact on residents where they would feel that the services promised were not being rendered on time. Staff's recommendation is not to move forward with smaller collection sections. The evidence just doesn't support it as a solution to the core problem. Staff's overall recommendation is to proceed with a preliminary evaluation of appointment-based bulk trash collection. This aligns with the audit findings, maintains monthly service, and increases efficiency by giving staff advance notice of expected volume. Early implications are that appointments would reduce set-out times and offer residents more flexibility in bulk trash collection. The system has promise, and we have a lot more questions that we would like to sort out in order to not only answer our concerns, but the concerns of residents, HOAs, and anyone in flood irrigation districts. Alongside this, we recommend Chapter 18 code revisions in these 3 areas, amending the placement day, establishing a pile size limit, and increasing the enforcement fee. These are code changes that would need to come back to council through the standard workshop and voting process. Our goal is not just to improve efficiency, but to do so in a way that aligns with council priorities and community expectations. I'll turn it over to Michelle for a cough break.
Thanks, Mike. So Mayor and Council, the reason we kind of tied these two together before we did a huge discussion on appointment-based bulk trash is that we wanted, it's not just what the audit found, it's also what our residents are asking for and what Councilmember Tomashoff brought to our attention. So one of the audit commendations was that staff has a strong commitment to customer services and prioritize responsiveness to our customer needs. And that's one thing we really paused and we took a good look at. So the one thing we do really, really well is that when a monsoon happens, potentially has a lot of benefits to it. And one of them is that you could put, if you've scheduled an appointment for tomorrow, you could put your material out as late as tomorrow morning if that's convenient for you, because you know that's the day you've asked us to come. So we think it's got some promise us to come. So we think it's got some promise. The consensus to look into this further. How would we deploy it? What are some of the questions you might have? What could we come back with? So, Mike, I'm going to let you go ahead with now the recommendations. Are you good?
I'm going to give it my
Okay.
best shot. Sorry about that. So, as Michelle mentioned, if council provides direction to proceed, we would return to a future workshop with a full implementation plan, outreach study, and a schedule for rollout. We'd also bring the Chapter 18 code revisions through the standard review process. So what we're asking for today is council's consensus on the direction for the division. Specifically, we are asking for consensus on not pursuing the smaller collection sections. Mayor, we are asking for consensus on not pursuing the smaller collection sections.
Well, I got too many questions for I'm
Okay.
going to
Okay.
give a consensus on anything.
Okay.
So, I was looking at what you gave us. Glendale currently is smack dab in the middle right now. There's 50% of the people allow up to 10 days prior, and 50% of the people or less. I don't have a problem with being in the middle, but again, the irrigation is a problem for me and a lot of people. We have to plan irrigation. Sometimes you can't get equipment in if you're trying to do trees. If you just got irrigation or going to get irrigated, it's problematic, big time. I have, now whether I've been doing it right or not, I've always never put my bulk trash out until after the 21st, because we're in the fourth week. So I don't know if that's when I'm supposed to do it or not, but that's when I've always done it. And it's never had an issue, never got a complaint or a citation or any notice. You also had said that staff recommendation is to increase fees. I have a problem with increasing fees just for the sake of increasing fees, but then you came back and you also said that there are people that would rather put their bulk trash out when they're not supposed to and just pay $99. I don't think there's a person on this council that wouldn't support jacking that way up. I mean, I certainly have no problem. If they're not going to go by our rules, that should be $300. And let's force them to obey. This is my opinion. Can't speak for everybody else. But let's force them to try to do it the right way. $99 used to be a lot of money in today's numbers. You can't hire a landscape crew to come out and do anything for $99. So I can see how it would be really beneficial for them. $300, I think you're going to get people's attention. I can't afford $99 or $300, so I try to do it the correct way. The irrigation is a big problem for me. Acreage is a big problem for me. We have lots of fruit trees. I have to try and plan out when I'm going to trim trees, knowing that monsoon's coming up. I'd rather trim my trees the way I want them trimmed than let the monsoon tear them up and then I have to put everything out. So I get certain days of the year where I'll have quite a bit of ranches and things like that out there. But if you're gonna limit me to the size with acreage, that's problematic for myself and my neighbors and some other people that have acre property. I think that's real problematic. I don't know why we haven't gone back and said, look, if you're gonna put bulk trash out, go ahead and put it out, but separate your bulk trash. If you have metal or appliances, keep them in a separate pile. So if people want to scavenge metal, they can just pick it up without ripping stuff apart. Plus, to keep it out of landfills. To me, it seemed like that would make sense, but I haven't seen that done. I don't know if we do or not. I just haven't seen it done. I don't like the direction that you're going with this. I can't support this right now. The increase in fees, I understand if the fuel prices go up, but again, we did a fuel surcharge in the past, and it seemed to work fine. I don't know how much we ever dropped that fuel surcharge down, but you know, that's kind of where I'm at. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. I can understand the resistance for larger properties with acreage because they've got a lot more landscape. So I could see where that would be. I mean, for a regular residential community where you're just talking, you know, production homes all up and down the street, 10 feet's probably plenty. But for somebody with an acre or 2 or 3 acres or more, they would need, because they've got a lot more landscape, they would need, so I don't know how we could, but I mean, they could bring back a proposal when they come back with the implementation with this on something that would be kind of scalable to however the size of the property is, something like that. I think that the idea of creating efficiency, I understand Councilmember Conscious is saying that they're fully staffed, but driving 2 trucks and a tractor up and down every single street looking for piles of trash clearly isn't efficient way to do this. And I'd like to see if we can create some efficiencies. This is our least efficient service that we provide, which means we're spending money trying to deliver the service that we probably don't have to be spending. So I would like to see if we could implement something that creates efficiencies so that they're not driving up and down every single street looking for piles of trash. And I would guess anyways that the appointment base would be that you're not going to say, well, you're not going to let anybody in the city schedule any day. They're going to be sort of, you know, like we're going to still be in zone 1 this time of the month. So we're going to make people in zone 1 schedule appointments for this time. We're not going to let them schedule it all throughout the month. I would think anyways, that's what we're doing. Can't be going back and forth, zigzagging across the city. But having stuff sit out for long periods of time this last week, and actually an unfortunate neighbor on my block was closing on his house. The new people were moving in, and they just moved into their house. They showed up with their moving in with a big pile of trash in front of it because they didn't know what day, and that had been out there for a week. I mean, the person moving out did what they were supposed to do within the allowable time, but the moving van showed up and they hadn't collected yet. So you could avoid situations like that by scheduling, you know, your collection. If your house is on the market, you could schedule around showings around bulk trash pickup. So I've seen them driving up and down the street with the 2 trucks, zigzagging all up and down every street, looking for piles of trash. And I do think that that's, we could probably do this more efficiently, or at least see if you could bring us a plan to do this more efficiently. So I'm absolutely support them going forward. And what they're asking to do is to come back to us with a plan and take a look at the plan and then decide whether or not we're ready to move ahead with this. So I support moving ahead with this as of right now. But I do think I would like to see something that would work for people with more, not just the 10 feet, for somebody it would work for me and most people in my district, but for other places around the city that have larger lots and way more landscape, that 10 feet in front of the property probably wouldn't work. Thank you.
Ms. Guzman.
Yes, I live on an acreage, and I also am concerned about the size. We cut trees, like the mayor stated he does too. We have a lot of garbage when we're mowing the yard. Putting a limit on the size, I would have a problem with that. Now, as far as setting an appointment, I'm not totally against that, only because when we are doing our landscaping or cutting trees, we always have to keep in mind, okay, when are they coming? If we want to do it sooner, we can't because we aren't going to have anywhere to put all that stuff. So I'm not totally against the idea of setting a date, of, you know, calling in and setting a time to come and pick it up. I do have issues with neighbors who put their garbage out, you know, way ahead of time. We have that problem on my street constantly. As far as separating the garbage, yeah, you know, that would be nice, but are people going to do it? No. You just dump it there. So I do support coming back with more information on that.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. I think some of these issues we're having, we could solve some of them with better communication with the residents and more consistent with the ones who maybe are chronic violators, and, you know, with more rigid or at least consistent enforcement. Though I will say that enforcement does seem to be pretty good. I had a fellow doing some work for me, and I told him to put the stuff up here, and I left, came back 2 hours later, he'd put it out at the curb, and I already had been tagged for it. So something's working. But I think we could communicate perhaps better about the rules with our residents and have tighter enforcement so they understand we're serious. Of course, the communication should be at least bilingual. I would be hesitant to go to the appointment-based system, and I know you're not recommending that right now, but I'd be hesitant until we get some more feedback, I think, from Peoria, for instance, that's recently gone to that, and let them have a couple of years on the appointment system and see if it's really solving the problems and how their residents like it. And then, of course, I do think that we should, before we have recommendations at this level, we should send this to our Citizens Utility Advisory Commission and get their opinion on it. Maybe do some resident surveys, some things like that. I'm all for efficiency, but not if it actually decreases the quality of the service. And I mean, this is one of the few things we get really big points for, so let's not mess it up. Thank you.
I actually agree with almost everything you just said.
Oh my God.
I know. What happened? You know, the
It's
one
all
thing
of it.
everybody here has said, including both the presenters, is this is a service. And I'll say this, and I hope it's taken the way I mean it. The gentlemen sitting in the audience that do this type of stuff every day, amazing. And a lot of the drivers, a lot of the guys sitting on the tractors have become accustomed to seeing me frequently walk out there with the rake to help rake stuff up. I don't have a problem with that. But it's service, and our citizens have come to expect a service. Service doesn't always mean that it's the cheapest thing in the world. Sometimes you pay for service. You just do. I can also tell you that setting up particular days and limiting when people can do things and how much, I know for a fact 2 people that live in Peoria that have figured out a way to beat the system. And they just simply schedule their day. All their neighbors use their day at the same time. The next month, all the neighbors use their day, and then they just keep, and you're shaking your head, yeah. So again, let's not fix something that maybe not be broken. It's not perfect by any means. And worst came to worst, if I had to pay an extra $10 for bulk trash pickup to keep it the way it is, I wouldn't holler about that. But to limit me to where I have to come back and try to figure out if I order it today, then I have to get it out tomorrow, and by the following day they're going to be there. I don't have that luxury of time. Some people do, I don't. And so I like knowing I can plan ahead 3 weeks. Okay, I know this is coming up. I can get my stuff on my driveway and take it out the day before. For me, that works really, really well. Unfortunately, I don't have the luxury of knowing that I have 2 days to get my bulk trash out, or 3 days, and they're picking it up. Again, if it rains, if I have irrigation, if I have to get called out and go do something, that 1 day can make a total difference. Where if I can plan the entire month, I know when to expect it, and if I miss it, I just miss it. I know I'm going to miss it, and so therefore it is, or I try to convince my grandsons to come over and help me. That don't always work. Anyone else? Go ahead.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mayor. Back in, I think, in October or November of 24 when I was allowed to go out with the bulk trash team, and I think the gentleman in the blue shirt was there that day. And as a kid growing up, I always wanted to be a bulk trash guy because it would look like so much fun. They let me do it, and it's a lot of work. It's hard. But those Jacob, the driver, and then the gentleman, I forget his name, who was driving the tractor, like incredible workers. The professionalism, how they did it, but also how they did the work was amazing. I like the idea of to research the appointment scheduling idea. I do like that, depending on how it would work. I'd like to also know like the pros and cons of that as well, obviously. I agree with some people that are out there, you know, they're willing to pay the $100 fine just to come pick it up. I believe raising that significantly would reduce that. I'm not sure about the, I don't have acreage like Diane and the mayor, but I know we have a 60-year-old mulberry tree. So when I got to cut that thing, there's no way I'm going to be able to put that in a 10 by 6 by 6 cube. That's going to be a challenge for me. So there are certain things where I don't know how that works. If it's got to be in front of your house, I live on a corner. I could put on the side of the house, but I'm not sure if it's available or not. I don't believe it is. So it's tricky, and there'll be a lot of people that are going to, I'm sure, going to speak up. But again, to echo the mayor's comments, the men and women that work in that department every single day, thank you for everything you do, even in the dead of summer when it's really bad. You guys are amazing for everything. It's one of those unsung heroes kind of thing. So keep up the great work, and then I look forward to the more information you guys bring back later. Thank you, Mayor.
Mayor. Thank you, Mayor. Just going down the staff recommendation list, the appointments, I'm not sure that I'm not real keen on it. I would be willing to explore it further. I just see it as problematic, and here's how I would envision. Again, and I don't know if you mean everybody has to make an appointment, and if you don't get picked up at all. So a neighbor calls in and he has an appointment, and then everybody sees he puts his trash out, and then everybody else puts their trash out, but they don't have appointments. I just see, and then I just see that as problematic. It's as far as how that would happen. So if you can come up with a system that works, I'd be okay with looking at it further. As far as increasing efficiency, I understand that's what all that would help with, and I agree with increasing efficiency, but I have to agree with some of the comments that were made by the mayor and others that it is a service. Our residents really do depend on it, and that's our motto: is we serve our residents. We do whatever we have to serve our residents. And I see what we're doing is making it more efficient, but in order to do that, we're putting more burden on the residents to remember when to call in, and if they don't call in, it doesn't come. Right now, we're kind of on automatic. It just comes. Unfortunately, in all our neighborhoods, the residents don't always know when it comes. And so they put it out early, and then one person puts it out. You know how the routine goes. Everybody puts it out. And that's an issue. I don't know that making appointments is going to fix that at all. But if there's a way to do it, I'd love to see it. Placement day, I don't have a problem making it shorter. I think having bulk trash out too long is problematic in our city. But it's mostly the people that put it out a week ahead of time. It takes us a couple of days to get a code person out there. Then it takes another 3 days to allow them to move it, and then it's already legal. So that is problematic, the way we do that. We can't improve it because by the time we enforce it, it's too late. And I don't know what your answer is on that, but I'd love to see it. Pile size, I don't agree with limiting pile size just because in my neighborhoods, I know there are large lot neighborhoods, a lot in my neighborhoods, and pile size is very small some months, and then it gets very large. And I know that's what you're trying to control, so that then you would get people to maybe trim more often and trim less. But most people, when they go to trim, they just want to get it done and be done with it for 6 months or whatever time length they're on. They don't want to spread that out. And enforcement fee, I think part of our problem is the enforcement fee. It needs to be significantly increased. And there was talk about increasing the fee, but I think you're just talking about the enforcement fee. So if somebody puts it out and they're not supposed to, that fee, instead of being $99, would be $300 or whatever. But if somebody calls in for a special pickup, you're not talking about increasing that fee at this point in time, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct?
Mayor, Vice Mayor, that would be something we would consider in the Chapter 18 code revisions. Currently, it is at the $99. That does not cover our operational costs to send a crew to the location to service it. So we would have to consider whether or not to increase the special service fee as well.
And that is very low, but I wouldn't want it to be, I would want the penalty fee to be much higher than what the call fee would be. So that if there's an enforcement fee, that's larger than what we would normally charge if we went out and were called to pick it up. Thank you, Mayor.
Diane? Oh, anyone else? Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. I wanted to say that in terms of the staff recommendations that are on this slide, I don't believe that they sufficiently address the issues that were brought up in the audit. So the 4 main things is staffing needs, inefficient collection processes, off-week inefficiencies, unbalanced boundaries, and we've already heard that the boundaries are not changing, so then that remains with the other 3. And just as the mayor and vice mayor have stated, I believe that we can come up with a plan that doesn't put any burden or any changes on the resident. And some other ideas that I have is putting a sticker on top of every single residential trash can to tell them which zone they are and which weeks they're going to have their bulk trash pickup, and also the amount of days that, whether it's 4 or 2, just to do some more informational campaigns like that. Another idea is looking at the different data that you all have. You probably have a list of folks who, and residences that have used the bulk trash system before, and you probably have the data for addresses that have never used it before. So I would also suggest an opt-out program. So if there is, a neighbor that I know down the street, senior citizen, just lives by themselves and doesn't use the bulk trash system, say, hey, we would like to improve our efficiencies and only focus on the people that will use it. So if you could kindly opt out of the bulk trash system, then that means that we know that you're not going to be using that system anymore. And then other things that we could do in terms of technology, we could also do a text messaging survey for folks that if they would like to opt in to getting their bulk trash regularly, then they'll get a survey about how was your experience, et cetera, and then sending out text reminders to them. Hey, your bulk trash is coming next week. You can go ahead and start putting your stuff out today on Saturday. So let's improve communication with our residents. Let's also use technology. For example, there have been ideas, and I'm not sure how I feel about this yet, but there's been ideas in different cities like Dallas that have a camera on their trash trucks. And what that has is they've passed an ordinance or whatever to be able to analyze as they're going by code compliance violations, etc. So we could have folks go out ahead of time and review and analyze which streets have the most bulk trash, what does that tonnage look like, and use our trash truck system that we have already to help identify that. But also too, in terms of these recommendations, I believe that addressing staffing needs is definitely, how can we help? How can the city council and the city manager's office and in our budget help you increase the amount of employees that you need in order to make this more efficient? And how much will that cost so that we don't have to put the burden on the residents? Thank you.
It sounds like everybody's done. I would just ask the one thing. The thing I've heard from people from across the valley, the jealousy that people show is the fact that we have bulk trash pickup once a month. And I mean, that's something that, oddly enough, that's something that people talk about, and they wish that they had it. It's service before self. We serve the people that put us in office. I think that we need to always keep that in mind. And if it's not the most efficient thing, then you know what, so be it. But let's not stop doing the service.
So, Mayor and Council, just kind of recap here. We're not asking for council to approve any policy change today. What we'd asked for was consensus on these, and I think what we've got was, it's okay. We got consensus for staff to bring back a potential appointment-based system, explain to council after going to CUAC what it might look like, what an outreach plan, how would we inform our residents what we're doing, and how we would schedule this. So we're going to ask staff to do a deep dive into this, research other cities. Peoria has it. Phoenix just implemented it. So what worked, what didn't work, and come back to council with a presentation through CUAC on what the system might look like. We heard a lot of questions today, and I think we can get those answered. The other one, I think we got consensus on. We definitely got consensus on enforcement fees. So we'll come back to council workshop on code changes, specifically enforcement fees. We got, I think, set out timing. I'm not sure, but we did not get pile size. So, Mayor, can we just ask set out timing? Was there a consensus for staff to bring back?
I did not hear a consensus on timing myself.
Okay.
But
I was,
again, I think what I'm looking for, what I'm hoping for, is you'll come back and take everything that was said today, get real deep into it, and come back and give us another option. So to me, it'd be another workshop. It wouldn't be asking for us to vote to approve, but another workshop that we have one more chance to tweak it if we have to.
So
I don't think we're at a position now where I'm ready to start approving any of that stuff until I find out how they work together. They're links of chain.
agreed, Mayor. So
Yeah.
we're going to bring back then set out timing in another workshop and enforcement fees. But I think I heard that council has no interest in us discussing pile size, that they'd like to leave the pile size alone. If you want us to bring that back and do a deep dive into that as well, we'd be happy to.
I believe that that's correct.
Yes, that's
Mayor,
correct.
I think at least the issue that I've noticed is I think there should be something in the ordinance that they can only be the width, because that's when I've seen piles that are like out into the street where they're literally blocking the 2 lanes of traffic. I think there should be something about that.
Okay.
I don't know about the length and the other issue, but I mean, we don't want people to be able to, go wade out into the street where they're out there literally affecting that 2 cars can't drive on the street. So
Ms.
I think
Watanko?
that should be something that they maybe.
Ms. Watanko, we talked about this, 8 years ago, something like that. And one of the things that was discussed at the time is that, and what I remember is that we were told that people could not put their bulk trash in the street.
No, it's always.
So,
Well, okay, but 8 years ago, I think it was about 8 years ago, it seemed like that was a conversation. That's normal practice, and there are some places where they can't put it in their front yard because there really isn't any place. So I'd like clarification on that for myself. My yard keeps getting lower and lower and lower from the grapple.
So, Mayor, we did come to council with another bulk trash presentation about 3 years ago, and we did get consensus from council to move to on-the-street placement for bulk trash.
Okay.
And one of the main reasons was that there's a lot of obstructions in people's yards, whether it's a gas meter or an electrical box or irrigation box, mailbox, whatever it is, that unfortunately when people pile their stuff up against it, we hit them, damage them, and then it causes us to have a risk claim against the city. So we did get permission or consensus from the council to move that to street side. That did not get changed in the code, so that would come forward with the code revisions to finally put that in the code changes so that our bulk trash folks could enforce that. That is one of the problems that we do currently see, is that we do have people that still put stuff in their property, and it's not just that it's far enough back that we don't even know if it's out for service or if it's just them storing things in their property, so it kind of becomes an issue for us at times So that will be coming forward with the proposed code revisions for
Well,
Chapter
that
18.
certainly, that's something that needs to be cleaned up anyway. Okay.
Yes, Mayor. Mayor, I wanted to ask if we could get a clarification on consensus for the appointment-based research. And the reason why I ask is because the reason why I voted no on the audit committee is because my fear was that it would then, of course, come here. And then what I don't want to happen is for there to be a headline saying the city of Glendale is considering an appointment-based bulk trash system. And then that education about, no, we haven't made any official decisions, we're just getting research, that could be, from our residents, confusing to them. And so I want to maintain the satisfaction of the residents and not get complaints to my office about why are we considering an appointment-based system. And so I wanted to ask, I'm not giving my consensus for appointment-based research or anything for staff to do in the future. I wanted to just end that discussion here, but I wanted to ask Mayor if there were other folks as well that didn't want to give their consensus on appointment-based.
Well, no, I understand your question. What I was trying to do is not even have to go to a consensus right now. Bring it back to a workshop again with everything that we talked about. And then let us go through it one by one and pick and choose at that point. I don't think we're ready to do that today.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to maybe more definitively take off of this cycle of discussion the appointment-based as well, so that, again, the residents are more clear about what we're focusing on. And then I would prefer that it not come back to us again until it's been to our advisory commission and incorporates their input. Thank you.
Totally fine with that. Okay.
That's it. Thank you.
All right.
Council item of special interest, bulk trash set out schedules.
We already did that.
It's a twofer.
Oh, I'm sorry. Council item of special interest, Cesar Chavez.
Vice Mayor and Council, good afternoon. Thank you for having us today. Today I have Kimberly Hall with me, the Community Services Director, and Purab Adabala, Transportation Director. We are going to address the council item of special interest that Councilmember Turner brought up on March 20th. He had requested for an inventory of all items in Glendale that had the name of Cesar Chavez associated. So we are going to present 3 different areas as part of the presentation. First one is the streets, the second one is the libraries, and third one is events. Under streets, we do have a honorary street name named after Cesar Chavez. These are for signalized intersections. We have the honorary street name signs are blue and static signs. These are at signalized intersections. The corridor that has this honorary street naming is from Maryland Avenue to Orangewood Avenue, the 1 mile on 59th Avenue. Even though there are 5 signalized intersections in that stretch of 1 mile, only 4 of them have the honorary street name signs, and those are listed, which is Maryland Avenue, Glendale Avenue, Myrtle, and Orangewood. Glen Drive is also a signalized intersection, however, that does not have the honorary street name signs. One of the things that, as part of the scoping, we've identified is, as a conservative estimate, we believe at the most it would take 8 staff hours in time to do research. We believe this was instituted in 2016, but we would need to dig out any actions that council may have taken that put these in place and identify the process to modify them. In terms of completing that, if council provides a consensus to move forward with removing the street name signs, the estimate to do that work, actual removal of the signs, is another approximately 8 hours. Kimberly Hall will speak for the library topic.
Mayor and council, within our library system, we have 20 books that feature Cesar Chavez, some of which feature other leaders within the community, and we have one streaming video regarding Cesar Chavez.
In terms of events, mayor and council, we've categorized them as non-city events and possible future city events. And for both of them, we do have a staff recommended consensus. However, on all of these 3 topics, you can see on the slide, we have recommended consensus language, but council can choose to provide a different consensus direction. On the streets, what staff is recommending is to bring the item to voting meeting if there was a resolution that council may have passed for council action to proceed with removal of the signs.
And for the libraries, take this back to the library board for recommendations. As far as events, there are no future participation or hosting of named events until further notice.
Mayor and council, will take any questions?
Yes.
Yeah, well, I'm going to make a statement, not a question. I've really got like incredibly mixed feelings about this. I think, for instance, the books. How do you take out history of something that even though the man has been accused, I don't know if it's ever gone to court or anything like that. I understand he's been accused, and everybody seems to believe it's true. Shouldn't say everybody, but a lot of people seem to believe it's true. But it's undeniable the work that he did also that made a difference in people's lives, a positive difference. And I don't know if by removing books from the library is the right thing to do. That's not honoring him, that's just simple history. If we start removing books because we don't like the history, I think we're doomed to failure in so many different ways. I can understand having a sign up honoring him. I get that. But by taking books out of history, I have a problem with that. I'd like to see what the library board comes up with. But it's a real fine line that we walk each and every day, that we're basically saying that the accused is guilty, and I don't know as though there's ever been any, I don't know. That's the problem. It happened so fast, spread across the nation, and you ask anybody today, and they go, oh yeah, he's guilty. I don't know if that was ever been proven. I suspect it probably was. I don't know. But again, the work that he's done, the amount of people that have rights today that didn't have rights 50 years ago. I remember as a kid growing up, the picketers in front of Fry's grocery stores for the unions. I remember that as a kid, 50 years ago, 60 years ago, a long time ago. So I think we need to really be cautious on how we do this. The things he did that were bad, yeah, we need to forget that. The things he did that were good, I think we need to remember that type of things, because that's how change happens for the good.
Mayor?
Go ahead.
Yeah, I have a comment on this too. I agree with you 100%. What he's being accused of, yes, is very bad. But to take books that talk about what he has done, the accomplishments that he did make, I think is going too far. Remove the honorary signs, the events, yes, but I will not support removing books from the library. He did make an impact. My parents worked the fields. I worked the fields as a young child. I know what it was like. I don't believe in removing history Hitler was a terrible man, but we have books in the library for students to learn about that. So I will not support removing, for us to start removing history books out of a library.
Thank you, Mayor. I agree with those sentiments. I would add one more thing. I think we should consider also renaming. In other words, Farmer Workers Boulevard, or something that would still recognize the movement and recognize the accomplishments and do it at the same time. And we may create a trend. Rather than just remove and forget, let's not forget what was good about it and rename it. And even events. I would hope that event comes back, but as a different name. And that way it would still recognize the accomplishments. Thank you.
Mayor and
Go ahead.
Mayor and Council, so if today, as suggested previously, if Mayor and Council, if you have a consensus to rename the honorary street name, you know, we will take that consensus direction if you have that.
I'm going to need time to think about that. Again, look what happened when we did this one. Yeah, go ahead.
Right. And everybody knows it's 59th Avenue anyway. I agree with the books, and then I had to step out. I apologize, but also the video, is it historic in nature, the streaming video?
Mayor and Council, yes.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I'm happy to wait for a recommendation from the Library Advisory Board. I have a feeling, I have a hunch what their recommendation would be, is to history is history. There's a lot of awful people, and not necessarily that this person was an awful but we don't only tell the good parts of history. It's the good, bad, the ugly. All of it is history. So I wouldn't be in favor of removing those from the library. Thank you.
One of the things that I think everybody's heard is when you forget history, you're guaranteed to repeat bad things, guaranteed. And we need people to understand history so that doesn't happen again. But we also want people to remember the good part of history so they continue to keep moving forward. Any other comments from anybody? Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. I mean, this is a tough one, but part of me understands your point of view about not removing the books. I would be okay with like putting their books in a restricted area, still keep them there. They can still go get them if they need them. They're just not on the shelf. My concern is like anybody saying, I can't believe they left that book there. Well, no, if we can remove it from the shelf, keep it in the library, but keep it restricted, I would be in favor of that. As far as that specific thing, I think and I'm not sure how easily accessible that video is either. I would look forward to or look into that, if I may. Thank you, Mayor.
Mayor, I'd like to ask, do we have a restricted area for books in the library that talk about the bombing of Pearl Harbor or Hitler? Or I don't think we do that. I think the book, I mean, they should be in the history section maybe of the library and not in the pleasant reading part of the library, but it is history. And I mean, you can answer my question, but I don't think we segregate books based on whether or not they may or may not be controversial.
Mayor and Council, no, we do not. We have an adult section, a youth section, and a children's section within the library system.
I wouldn't be supportive of putting those books in a different area. We could advise our library staff that if somebody does ask, we could explain to them that, you know, we decided that these are historical in nature and that the history is the history, and history contains, you know, all kinds of people who did all kinds of things, but the significance of the work that he did is what it is. So, and the significance of the history in the Farm Workers Union and the movement of, you know, the rights of those people, and the living conditions and the wages and all the things that happened are part of our history. So I think they should remain and not be segregated into a separate part of the library, because we've got other books in there that talk about other dark periods of history and other things that are unpleasant that we don't put someplace else in the library. Thank you.
Mr. Baldonegro.
Thank you, Mayor. If I remember correctly, a friend of mine, Nick Amavisca, he was a teenager back in the 10 years ago, and he went to Ironwood High School. He was absent one day when they were handing out projects, research paper projects he had to pick from. He went back the next day, and there was only 2 available that were left, and one of them was on child pornography. He was instructed he had to go to a library to get information and research stuff about child pornography. He went to the library, and obviously there's nothing like that on the shelves, but there was, at least from what I remember Nick telling me, that there was information that was kept privately for research. He had to stay there and view this. I believe it was Glendale, Maine, I believe. And it bothered me that a high school is having teenage students do research on that, but I was under the impression that was available at Glendale, Maine, like in a closed section off. He had to view it there. He couldn't check it out. If that's changed or if that was incorrect, I apologize, but I remember specifically that happened. And I was just like, what on earth? Why would we have that? And why would the high school have that available that he would have to research that? He would have never picked it had he been there the day before, but he was sick. He went the next day, and that was the only thing that was left available for him to choose. Now, that entire thing bothered me to no end, and he's like, I can't just type in child pornography on the internet to look for research. I mean, that's going to be a huge problem. I remember him saying that he went to a library. If I remember correctly, because he lives right by Glendale, Maine, went there, and it was in a restricted area, could not check it out. I think his mother had to go with him to be there with him while he did the research. And it was, back then I thought that was just one of the dumbest things I'd ever heard of, that we would have that available, and that the high school would say, hey, here's a research paper, and like, you got to be kidding me. So that's why I brought it up like that, in that sense.
Yeah.
Maybe it was a video store.
Mayor?
Go ahead.
Yeah. Any pornography in a library should be segregated. But these kind of books or video, I wouldn't support that at all. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Mayor, I support the consensus items to bring the item to a voting meeting, hopefully the next one, to remove the signs, and potentially, if we'd like to replace it with farm workers recognition, maybe that could go through our commission on community and culture. It's just a recommendation. And then I do support the library board coming back with a recommendation on that to see what they believe. And in terms of what I believe that the 20 books and the one live stream video should be taken out of our system. And then, of course, the events, it seems just fine. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay. Have you got what you need?
I believe we have, Mayor.
Yes, thank you, Mayor and Council.
Thank you. Ms. Bauer? You're all done. City Manager report.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. 3 items for you tonight. Last week, our Department of Organizational Performance brought together 30 employees for a lean summit focused on process improvement and problem solving. It's a great example of how our team continues to look for ways to work smarter and serve our community better. For our mentorship program this morning, we welcomed our newest group of mentors and mentees. The program pairs 20 mentors and 20 mentees over 3 months to build leadership skills and strong working relationships. Since launching in late 2023, over 100 employees have participated, and it's been great to see those connections grow. And finally, the family bike ride. We had nearly 900 cyclists join Glendale's 29th annual family bike ride at Saguaro Ranch Park before heading out on 3 different routes around the city. Everyone went home with a medal and a post-ride treat, and a big thanks to our transportation and police teams, along with the staff who helped make it all happen. Thank you, Mayor.
All right. Mr. Attorney.
Mayor and Council, thank you. Just a reminder, we have an executive session immediately after this meeting. We had a holder for an executive session at 5 o'clock. However, I'm going to need to push that out, and so we will not hold that this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Council items of special interest, Mr. Baldonegro.
None, sir.
Mr. Conchus?
None.
Ms. Guzman?
None, sir.
Mr. Tomachoff?
I'm sorry, Mayor, I actually do have one. I was notified by a resident, I need to find my note here, that they contacted our park department for a recreational program for adaptive for children with disabilities and were referred to a neighboring city. So I'd like for staff to bring back a discussion whether the council's has any interest in moving ahead with our Parks and Recreation Department providing something other than just referring our residents with children with disabilities or even young adults with disabilities to seek recreation in another city. Thank you, Mayor.
Turner? Vice Mayor?
Nothing today, Mayor.
I have nothing. Can I get a motion to go into executive session?
Second?
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion here? None. All in favor, vote aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, vote nay. Appears the ayes have it. Do have it. We're in executive session.
Anybody know?